Canadian government will resume funding for UNRWA, bowing down to pressure from Trudeau's cancelled event with the Italian PM. And Palestinians are suing the federal government to block military exports to Israel. This is the Great White North Report.
I'm in love with the system. Never going home. I'm in love.
Yesterday, the Canadian government said it's going to resume funding to the United Nations Relief Agency for Palestinians, basically UNRWA. We paused funding. As it turns out, UNRWA employees were part of the Hamas attack on Israel. Israel has clear evidence to support it, and we all know that Hamas has tunnels underneath United Nations buildings within the Gaza Strip. We also know that Hamas controls the teachers' union and the workers' union. So the United Nations, anytime they want to hire locally within Gaza, they're hiring someone who belongs to Hamas or is affiliated to Hamas. Is that a conspiracy? No. If you think it's a conspiracy, give your balls a tug and put your head in the garbage can. It's not. It's a fact. So Trudeau and his liberals are going to give more of our taxpayer money to a bunch of people that don't deserve it. $25 million of our hard-working taxpayer money is going to a bunch of people that we've been giving money to, it seems, forever. Now, just out of curiosity, let's take a look at how much we pledged to UNRWA in Canadian millions of dollars. Since 2016, $20.4 million. You can see the number has gone up over the years. That's a large number. Anyway, UNRWA moved quickly to fire 12 staff members on January 26th as Israel made its allegations. So there's obviously truth to it. You don't fire someone if there's no truth. So we suspended our payments, and we're not due till April. Now, I believe Trudeau did this because the Muslims in Canada are hammering Trudeau, and he needs it. 2 out of 3 Muslims in Canada voted for Trudeau. It's a significant group. In fact, they've gotten even more brazen, and they forced Trudeau to cancel the Toronto event with Italian PM Meloni due to pro-Palestinian protest outside the Art Gallery of Ontario, met by hundreds of protesters. Where are the police? How many months has it been since we've had these protests? Longer than the trucker protest. That they've been protesting constantly, everywhere. It seems. I know some of them get paid by organizations. The one out in Vancouver does. This was last Saturday. He had to cancel the event because why would you have an event in Toronto anyway when you know there's going to be protesters? I would have taken him somewhere else. Somewhere you're not going to have these massive these crowds. 200 to 300 protesters gathered outside several entrances due to security concerns. The event was canceled. They're getting very brazen, and they're starting to get violent. And these people want us to side with a terrorist organization instead of siding with a legitimate government that doesn't want this kind of stuff to happen. And again, it seems that every article I read, they have to quote what the Gaza health officials say. Last time I looked, Gaza health officials were operated by Hamas. So why would I trust their stats, especially when they're not counting combatants? They don't give you an idea how many combatants are killed. Probably 30,000 combatants. I don't doubt that civilians are killed because they're in the way, because Hamas is hiding amongst them. Now we want to call for a ceasefire in the conflict due to the deteriorating humanitarian crisis in Gaza. Well, if you saw anything, Israel tried to send aid trucks into Gaza and they got mobbed. People came and mobbed the trucks and stole what they could. Eventually, Israel just had to fire warning shots. They didn't kill anyone. These people were crushed because of the crowd mainly. When you act like animals, you're going to be... what's the point? Israel should just open up their own little refugee camp on their side of the border and start screening people to come out. And tell them they can go back when everything's said and done. Use the money that you captured from Hamas to help pay for the reconstruction and pay for your own expense. Because wars aren't cheap. But these are the tactics that they're using. They're trying to pressure the Canadian government to follow something that most Canadians aren't in agreement with. So now a group of... I don't even call these people Canadians, but a group of Palestinians living in Canada sues federal government to block military exports to Israel. Claim that Canada is undermining its obligations under international law by approving military exports. Well, military sales are very profitable, I hate to tell you. For international human rights, Al-Haq Law in the Service of Man, a Palestinian human rights organization. That's a joke. Stop issuing permits for military equipment exports to Israel. I don't think we export that much to Israel. So Israel is among the top 20 destinations for exports of Canadian military goods in 2022. Global Affairs insists Ottawa has not allowed exports of arms to Israel in decades. The number of permits for non-lethal military equipment has been approved since October 7. Non-lethal. I don't know what military equipment we would sell to them. What would they want? Israel makes a lot of their own, or gets it from the U.S., and they have top-grade military equipment. They have better stuff than Canada. I don't see what they would buy from Canada. Well, we haven't sold them any arms or munitions simply because we're sending it all to Ukraine. Like, seriously, this is just a ploy to get attention and put pressure on the government. And things like this, when we increase our Muslim population in Canada, this kind of stuff is going to get worse. And eventually there'll be a backlash. Just look what's happening in Ireland, Britain, Denmark, Sweden, Netherlands, Italy, France, even Brazil, of all places. There's such a backlash against Muslims. Not because they're bad people, but because the political side of it is atrocious. Most of them will not adapt. In Canada, we have a BC Imam who condemns murdering Israel and Muslims who voted for Trudeau. This guy is a fiery, long-time Victorian Imam, is one of two British Columbians who demonize Israel and defend those who violently attack Jews. And this guy is allowed to stay in Canada? Yonos Kathrada, head of the Muslim youth of Victoria. He's not very youthful. He wants to attack sellout imams who have stood front and center in photos with Trudeau. And may Allah give him, Trudeau, what he deserves. That's a threat to the Prime Minister. That's just as bad as any of the truckers ever did. Kathrada said Trudeau is now showing his support for those who oppose Islam and Muslims. So like I said, when first elected, Trudeau attracted the vote of 2 of 3 Muslim Canadians. Probably the NDP probably got the other one. Highly doubt many voted Conservative. There's videos of him on YouTube, this guy. He preaches to destroy the enemies of Islam and annihilate the heretics and the atheists. He has told members not to vote for filthy and evil political candidates who support homosexuality or Zionism. Already he's against heretics and the atheists. Well, the First Nations would be one of those he would definitely not support. He's never been charged in Canada with a hate crime. He is not known to have ever been publicly denounced by a Canadian politician. Why are we not doing so? Why are we not keeping this guy under tabs? Actually, throw him out, because I highly doubt he's born in Canada. The other is Vancouver writer-activist Khaled Barakat. The only way we can deter Israel and the Israeli system is by attaining power and resistance missiles and rockets. That's the work with imperialism. That's what works with imperialism and Zionism. Nothing else works. So he's advocating violence. It's time to update our laws and go after this guy. I would kick these both out. But anyway, we'll watch a short video of this Imam and what he preaches.
Make sure this is clear in your mind. You think that they are your friends? No, they're the enemies of Allah. So if they're the enemies of Allah, how are they your close friends? I want our children to understand this well. The non-Muslims are the enemies of Allah. Therefore, they are your enemies. Some of them don't even believe that Allah exists. You want somebody like that to be a close friend of yours? Allahumma a'izz al-Islam wal-Muslimin wa adhill al-kafarata wal-mushrikeen. Allahumma dammir a'da' ad-din wa ahlik az-zanadiqa wal-mulhideen.
So that's the video by this Imam. And it's hard to believe that he has not been charged with a hate crime. I hope he's been investigated by the authorities. And if he's not, he should be kicked out of Canada. Muslim youth. Christ, you see how old the guy is? Can you imagine if a Catholic priest or a rabbi or a United Church minister, any kind of Pentecostal, had they come in and denounced Muslims like this or any other group like this, they would be serving jail time right now. It would be all over front page news. I couldn't find anything in CBC about this guy. We need to update our laws against this kind of. One day, his rhetoric is going to inflame somebody to do something very drastic. It's not good for the country. It's not good to let imams in. I would never let imams in. I, for one, think imams should be trained in Canada under Canadian rules, which means we throw out the doctrine of abrogation. The doctrine of abrogation means that if there's a contradiction within the Quran, between an early verse and a later verse, then the later verse is the correct verse. So that means the early verse is just tossed out. That's how they get around all these contradictions in the Quran, because there's quite a lot of them. My point is, the whole thing is that Islam is very much a dangerous thing, especially as we get more and more Muslims into Canada. And eventually they're going to, in areas they refuse to integrate. And they are applying political pressure on our government to do what most Canadians don't want them to do. Most Canadians do not want to support a terrorist organization. And we definitely don't want to give our taxpayer money to do so. So if Trudeau ever had balls, which he really doesn't, he would step up and say, forget it. But he knows that if he's going to lose the election, because he will not have the Muslim vote. So I think Trudeau is just pissed off the Muslims too much. And they're not going to support him in the next election. NDP, because Singh is such a panderer. But anyway, any Canadians out there, let me know what you guys think about the Imam. What should we do? Should Canada strip away his Canadian citizenship and throw him out of the country? Take away his platform. We could put him in jail, but what's that going to do? He's going to probably influence people there. Maybe solitary confinement would be better. And also, what do you think about the Canadian government giving your hard taxpayer money to help a people that supported a terrorist organization? Leave comments in the comment section, hit the like button, subscribe to the channel. Until next time, this has been the Great White North Report.
I'm in love with the system, never going home.